Hello everyone, welcome back to our class, and this time let's discuss about emotion, reward, aggression, and stress. So the brain has a big role in these physiological processes. So let's discuss them one by one. First, let's discuss about emotion. Emotion is a combination of physical sensations and the conscious experience of a feeling. Emotions provide survival by enhancing um, organizing approach and avoidance behaviors and providing a means of communications. If we are confronted by unwanted situation, then our emotions can sometimes help us survive through giving or eliciting that emotion. Then therefore, we can confront that problem or that unfortunate situation. According to the James Lange theory, this is a theory of emotion which a person's physical state provides cues for the identification of an emotional state. This says that when that a perceived stimuli will then lead to specific physical responses. This specific physical responses is will then connote our subjective feeling. This will imply our feeling. Like if you're angry, if we are confronted by a problem, if your wife shouts at you, for example, then sometimes it can elicit that we will punch the wall. Our behavior then leads us to punch the wall, and that behavior will then become the source of our feeling. That we are angry, that we don't feel so well. Okay, that is according to the James Lange theory of emotion. Okay, we have also the term empathy. This is going or being in the shoes of others. That this is ability to relate to the feelings of another person. So you understand, you try to empathize, in the feelings of other people, and this is one effective and one important trait of being a counselor or in counseling. Empathy. Catharsis is the process of releasing, providing relief from strong or repressed emotions. So, in the theory of Freud, this is means of trying to um, release that negative emotion inside of you. Catharsis. You will release it through crying, no, and it will then provide relief to you in your anxiety, okay, or in your sadness. Next is we have the theory of Cannon-Bard. Cannon-Bard theory suggests that the perceived stimuli will then result into the differences, Iba, Unlike sa James Lange theory of emotion, sa Cannon-Bard theory of emotion, physical responses from that stimuli is different to our subjective feeling. This is where simultaneous activation of physical responses and the recognition of the subjective feeling occur independently. So magkaiba sila. So hindi sila linear. Okay, next is we have the Schachter senior theory. So this is a theory of emotion in which general arousal leads to cognitive assessment of the context, which in turn leads to the identification of an emotional state of tension to the expression of emotion. So, for example, there is a perceived stimuli. This will then lead to a general arousal. Okay, and afterwards, it will then lead to assessing your surroundings or your cognitive or your cognition. What is the context here? Which then leads to the identification of the feeling. So meron pang singit, after that arousal, you will try to assess first. What should I feel or what should I think of this way of that situation. There is that point in time that you will think or assess it for yourself. Ano yung kakarapat dapat na feeling that I will attach to towards this. Okay? So those are the three theories of emotions in the field of psychology. What are the brain parts that is correlated with emotions? So we have the autonomic nervous system. This controls many activities of our organs and glands, participates in the general arousal associated with emotional states. So we have also the amygdala. So the amygdala is an important part of the brain that helps coordinates the responses to things in your environment, especially to those that trigger an emotional response. No? This structure plays an important role in fear and anger. Hence, this is called as the fear circuit. So the amygdala stimulates the hypothalamus that initiates that fight or flight response. So the hypothalamus will send a signal to the adrenal glands to produce hormones such as adrenaline and cortisol. Now, this will produce arousal or ayun. So the autonomic nervous system, amygdala, cingulate cortex, and cerebral cortices plays important roles in emotion. So here is a summary of the different parts of the brain and kung ano yung magiging consequence kapag na-damage yung part na yan. I hope you can study more into this. Okay, let's now discuss pleasure and reward. Most neurons in the mesolimbic system use dopamine as their primary neurotransmitter. The mesolimbic dopaminergic system is a key component of the reward pathways in the mammals in the mammalian brain. Okay, this is referred as the dopaminergic pathway in the brain. Okay, so this is the part of the brain responsible for pleasure and reward. Okay, meso, no? Ibig sabihin, no? Midbrain, no? The limbic system is a broad neuroanatomical area associated with certain behaviors and functions. The mesolimbic system is a dopamine system that includes areas of the midbrain and the limbic system. So take note of this part of the brain. Okay, now let's discuss about stress. Stress is defined as an unpleasant and disruptive state resulting from the perception of danger or threat. A stressor is a source of stress. So, you're familiar naman siguro of GAS or General Adaptation Syndrome by Hans Selye. Now, this is a three-stage model for describing the body response to stress. So, we have three stages under this model or General Adaptation Syndrome. We have alarm reaction, resistance stage, and exhaustion stage. So, the alarm, this is the first stage, no, characterized by the activation of the sympathetic nervous system and mental alertness, also known as the flight or fight response stage. Next is we have the resistance. This is the second stage in Selye's general adaptation syndrome. This is characterized by the person's effort to maintain normal activities while coping with stress. This is where your body will start or to continue to cope. Next is we have exhaustion stage or exhaustion stage. No, this is the final stage of Selye's general adaptation syndrome, wherein characterized siya by extremely low reserves of strength and energy, and exhaustion can lead to disorders such as depression. So ito na yung mahirap, no? Kapag na-use mo na lahat ng mga resources mo, you already use all of the coping skills that you have learned, hindi pa rin kaya, no? And your reserves already depleted. It will lead to exhaustion stage. So may mga term tayo na burnout, no? Na burnout ka sa trabaho mo, na burnout ka sa pag-aaral mo. So nangyayari din ito sa mga tao. Okay? So I hope you will understand the different stages. To manage emergencies, successfully physical, cognitive, and behavioral responses must be coordinated. The limbic system is the part of the brain involved in our behavioral and emotional responses, especially when it comes to behaviors we need for survival, like feeding, reproduction, and caring for our young, and the fight or flight responses. It's important, no? The limbic system. Okay, we have discussed this kanina. And now let's discuss about aggression and violence, no? Aggression, um, to refer to the intentional initiation of hostile or destructive acts towards another individual. Aggression is correlated with patterns of activity in several brain structures, including the hypothalamus, the amygdala, the anterior cingulate cortex, and the prefrontal cortex. There are two brain areas involved in the neural network of aggressive behavior. These are the amygdala and the hypothalamus. So both of this also plays a role in aggressive behaviors. Okay, now let's discuss about the biochemistry of aggression. I've actually researched more into this. And ano ba yung mga what are those factors that causes or aggressive behaviors for people? First is drug use, most particularly alcohol use. Okay, most studies found out, police reports shows that there are 65% of murders, 88% of knife attacks, and 65% of spousal abuse incidents, and 55% of physical child abuse incidents in the US is caused by alcohol use towards a person. Alcohol is also associated with the of the majority of suicides. So again, through the use of alcohol, no, it reduces the inhibition of people in thinking clearly, no, in doing prudent behaviors, no. So yung proper way of thinking and behavior nawawala or nababawasan because of using of this substance, alcohol. It sedates them. Next is we have testosterone. It might influence aggression by increasing reactivity to threatening stimuli. So I think testosterone, may large amount of testosterone yung mga lalaki. No? And also, testosterone is also present also for women, but just in small amounts lang. Women who were given testosterone showed stronger subcortical reactions to images of angry faces. To a study, no, that is an experiment. Once again, if subcortical reactions are strong enough to overwhelm cortical inhibition, aggression is the likely outcome. Okay, consequently, higher levels of serotonin should predict greater inhibition of the aggressive drive produced in subcortical regions. Individuals with histories of violent suicide attempts or impulsive violence show evidence of decreased serotonin activity. So kung konti yung inyong serotonin level, if diminishing amount siya, then there is a greater tendencies for you to have aggressive behavior. Okay? Low serotonin levels in humans are associated to feelings of depression, often described as aggression towards the self. So sometimes because of this, no, lower serotonin level, there are times that we have that suicidal ideations, suicidal attempts, no, because of the low serotonin level. Not only aggression to other people, but aggression towards the self. So while low serotonin might promote aggression towards others in some cases, towards the self in other cases, and towards both the self and the others. So still this remains to be controversial and unclear pa siya. Okay, let's just read the summary of points. No? Electrical self-stimulation research suggests that some structures of the brain participate in the reward or pleasure circuit. Aggression is influenced by genetics, although aggressive behavior can be modified through culture and learning. The hypothalamus, amygdala, and cingulate cortex and orbitofrontal cortex are involved with aggression. Alcohol, high testosterone levels, and low serotonin levels correlate with aggression. Okay, Hansel also described the three-stage general adaptation syndrome model that occurs in response to stress. These are alarm, resistance, and exhaustion. Stress hormones suppress immune system activity, leading to higher rates of illness among people experiencing chronic stress. And that is all for our lesson. I hope you've learned something. Thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.